Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster.
All right, welcome back. This is East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a guest with us who is very new to ultra running, but has somehow managed to accumulate 22 races in 2 years with several podiums, and has come on pretty strong and has already jumped in to a 200 miler that we'll learn about later in this podcast, Southern State. So I haven't got to hear much about this race yet. So interested to hear your story, and congratulations on the podium finish there as well. Ryan Fortenberry, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Yeah, so my name's Ryan. Yeah, so in terms of running, I never ran through school or anything. I was a soccer player, so that was my cardio. Yeah, I played soccer all through school and a little bit of college, and really kind of got into running after college because, I live in Somerset, and there's not a lot of, like, intramural sports like adult leagues or anything going on around here. And, yeah, at some point, I think I was like, I'm just too out of shape. So I kind of started, I guess that was kind of around 2020. I started trying to just get back into a little bit of shape, and then my world got a little bit flipped upside down. So I had been married. We were together 8 years, married 4. And yeah, it was there at the kind of 2020, the COVID stuff ramped up, and then my relationship started kind of crumbling. And yeah, it was Thanksgiving. Things were really weird. And I asked what was going on, and we had a big talk and worked things out, I thought. And then Christmas Day got told a divorce was wanted. So that was my 2020. So 2020 was COVID and just awful all around. So yeah, I'd kind of, through 2020 and dealing with all that, I'd kind of try to get back in shape, just to put my focus somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then so 2021 was a lot of dealing with trying to get divorced and agree on everything and how stuff was splitting up. And yeah, I went to some dark places, and I was looking for, like, when your life's spiraling like that, I was looking for something to grab hold on that I could feel like I had some control, and running became that. So I just ramped up kind of more and more, not ever running any races. I didn't do any races in 21. I was just running. I was just trying to stay fit, get in shape, and like try to feel like I had some semblance of control over my life. And really during that time too, like running, and I was looking for other resources and stuff. I actually first kind of heard about, and this might be a lot of people, like I was looking for like motivational books and like self-help stuff. And I read Can't Hurt Me by Goggins. And that's when I first kind of heard about ultra running. I was like, that's crazy. And it never really occurred to me that was something I could do, like that I would do. I was like, that's crazy. People are out there doing that. Like I had no idea. I think a lot of people still don't know that people do crazy stuff. But yeah, I read that. I didn't even know of any races like around here, but yeah, come kind of early 22, and I had a buddy reach out that was going to run Big Turtle. He was planning to ramp up and run Big Turtle in April, like into April. And I was like, he's like, you run a lot anyway. Like, why don't you sign up? And I was like, okay. Like, so I started looking for races, and I signed up for Big Turtle. And then I ended up, my first ultra was the Bluegrass 50K put on by Next Opportunity. That was my first one. But yeah, and then it kind of all downhill from there. I just started ramping up to the different distance. I did 50K, 50 mile, 50K. Okay, I'm going to try 100 mile. And then I did 100 mile, 100 mile, 100. Because that's kind of the distance I fell in love with. Is I really love like 100 mile plus races. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
Well, and that's kind of interesting. Me and you have a very similar origin story, because I started running during my divorce. I'd never ran either. So started with 5Ks and worked my way up. I did not jump straight into a 50K as my very first race. And I'm sitting here looking and like, kudos to you. You do your very first 50K and you finish fourth place. That's pretty impressive.
Oh, well, you see, I did not do any training on trail, and that's pretty rough out there. So I was in first, running with, like, it was me first and second with the guy who ended up winning it for like 22, 23 miles.
Oh,
and that's when the wall hit. And so then he took off. Like, I was like, oh shoot, he's got a kick. Like, so he kicked on me, and I was like, I ain't got that. So yeah, I there like 23 miles, 24 miles in. Like, I started fading, and like I got caught by the next guy. And I was like I'm still in third. I'm still in third. There, I think within the last couple miles, I got caught. It was pretty late on. I got caught and got hit fourth place, but I finished that race. I was still happy. I was like, I got it done. And but I was like, I need to probably do some training on trails. It's a different ball game.
Did you have any issues? Did you learn anything in that first race?
I think a 50K. I don't think I had too many issues like 50K wise. With that, I mean, with that one, it was like a 5 to 6, like between 5 and 6 mile loop. So it had that aid station every time. So it wasn't too much of an issue of like not having enough fluids or enough to eat.
Right.
Yeah. So that one wasn't. Yeah.
Just didn't have your trail legs yet.
Yeah, I did not have trail legs. Yeah.
So were you? Do you think you got into running just? I mean, it sounds like your story was you got into running just trying to get your mind off of everything that was going on and trying to find something that you could do that be by yourself and just run. Like, is that what you were kind of chasing?
Yeah, I think so. I was really looking for, like, I felt like my life was just out of control. Like, I was like, everything's falling apart. Yeah, I got in my head a lot, went to those dark places that you go when you feel like you've lost everything. And I was looking for a way out, something to grab onto, and running became that. And then when I ran that first ultra, I was like, this is something, it's something to focus it, I guess. You can focus that running. It's not even just, I'm running, I'm going to get in shape. It's like, now I have like an actual, like a goal. Like, it's something I can strive towards. I want to drop this time, or like, I want to hit that distance. And that really gave it to me. And yeah, it's just been such a good outlet for, stress and just having some control.
Well, and you get to meet some pretty amazing people.
Oh, yeah.
That's the fun part.
Yeah. And I am you talk about running and like being alone. So I'm a very hermit kind of guy. Like, I'm not super social. I mean, I work out in the woods. I'm alone a lot. So I have crew and stuff sometimes out there with me, but minimal people. Like, I'm not the most social butterfly. I'm probably the introvert. But yeah, I've met so many, great people since running, and some of my best friends, like just from training runs and stuff. Like, I'm good friends with Andrew Nelson. He's been on here before, but I met him at the Yamacraw training run that first year in 22, before I was ramping up for running Yamacraw. Went out there and ran with him, got chatting, and met him and his wife, and we run together all the time now. So met him and Matt Dick, and we've run a bunch of races together. We've crewed and paced each other a little bit, met some great friends and friends that are all over the country too, because some of the draw for some of these races, like, just 2 weeks ago at Hellbender, met a guy I ran with at Cruel Jewel last year that, and learned that he goes around, he works and does carpentry for or has done in the past carpentry for stuff in North and South Poles. I was like, I didn't even know that was a job you could do. Going to all these crazy places, and he's run tons of races. And I got talking to him, and he was talking about doing Cocodona next year, and that's like a bucket list race for me. Like, I've watched the coverage of that so much the last 2 years, and I'm like, I really want to do Cocodona. Yeah. Oh man, that's probably number one for me right now, of in terms of races I'd like to do. So we'll see how that goes. But that's in terms of meeting awesome people. The trail running community is just awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody looks out for each other out there. Yeah, make some of the best friends you could have at races.
Yeah, it's such a, it's, you don't realize how small the community really is. Like once you're in the community and you start becoming friends with runners, you start just all of a sudden you start meeting all these other runners and you start becoming friends with them. And the next thing you know, like, most of your friends on Facebook, etc., are all just runners. I'm just looking, I'm like, every friend I have almost is a runner, and it's awesome because I just love seeing what people are doing. And it's just so funny because, it's one of those things where, like, you look over and all of a sudden you see 20 people have ran a race, and I'm like, well, this is cool. And then I'm like, oh, I want to sign up for something now. What's that? So,
yeah.
You mentioned your crew. So what do you do for work?
For work, so I work for the Office of Kentucky Nature Preserves. We're like a smallish state entity, but we have properties all over the state. So I'm the regional manager for the Cumberland Plateau. So I'm kind of in charge of all our properties kind of in south central Kentucky. So I do various stuff. Big component is like prescribed fire. So we do prescribed fire. I treat invasive species, whether that's cut stump treatments or foliar spraying, or we treat hemlocks for hemlock woolly adelgid, and that's like using a soil injector. I do like wild rivers monitoring to make sure people aren't like encroaching within the wild rivers corridors, cutting timber and stuff like outside of law, like given the 200-foot corridor. Yeah. I dabble in a little bit of everything. A big project I've done over the past kind of 4 years or so is a lot of like upland pine management, which has had a heavy fire component and like mid-story removal work, like removing undesirable species to promote pine and oak and like a more diverse understory. Yeah, so I'm out in the woods all the time. So I figured I should pick a hobby where I just stay out there some more.
That's awesome. Speaking of people that's got awesome jobs, that's kind of cool.
Sounds pretty awesome to me.
Yeah.
So did you go to school?
The heat of the summer and those rainy days, it can be rough.
Oh, I bet.
For the most part, it's pretty awesome.
Especially when you're out there doing a controlled burn.
Did you go to school for this kind of stuff?
I did. So actually, I initially went to school for engineering, and I hated it a lot. We were doing equations that would take up like a front and back side of the page. And one day I had the moment, I had a professor, he was like, we finished one. It was like a 2-page equation. And he's like, see, like, if you want to be an engineer, like, this should make you happy. This should fulfill you. And I was like, this does not. Like, I think I'm out. And so I was at Berea College at that time. And so I ended up leaving Berea College, and I came back to my local community college in Somerset. And I just started taking random courses, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I liked biology. And then one day I was actually out like fishing and stuff. I was like, I could do like, something wildlife or forestry. And so I got a biology degree from the community college, and then transferred to EKU and got a degree in wildlife management. And that's how I ended up where I'm at.
Cool. Well, that's pretty cool, because if you realize real quick you're in the wrong major, you better change. And I changed. I won't even go through all the majors I changed, but I believe at one point I was in nursing. So I switched all kinds of majors. I'm not there with you.
That would have been beneficial now. Nurses all back to help on the course.
Well, I do that anyways, man.
You just yell at us and tell us to run faster.
That's my soft side, me yelling at you.
It works.
So let's jump into some of your races real quick, and then definitely want to move forward to hear about your Southern States journey and a couple of them. That's a huge race. I see a pretty hard 100-miler on here. Looks like you did Sheltoe, you did Yamacraw, and then you did Warhammer. Mm-hmm. And that was also my first 100-miler. Mike even crewed me and paced me on this race. And
did I do 50 out there?
You did 50.
Okay.
And that was on the old course.
We were that crazy. We just done it just like, hey, you want 50? Yeah, I'll do it. So
you paced him for 50 miles?
Jenny Baker accidentally gave me a belt buckle. She thought I finished the race.
That's how bad he looked.
But yeah, tell us Warhammer 100. Like, you went from just running for a year straight, then you jump into a couple of 50s, 50Ks, 50 milers. Now we're talking about 100 miles. That's a difference. That's a big step. So tell us the story.
So I think mostly like that year before I got into ultras, I was probably most weeks doing between like 30 to 50 miles, probably closer around like 35, 40 mile weeks. And then I went and did bluegrass 50K and was like, I need to run some trails because I was training just on roads.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also like, I should probably ramp up on mileage a little bit. That after I ran my first one, I started nerding out a little bit on like researching how people actually train for them because I didn't know. I had no idea. I still kind of fly by the seat of my pants. Like I don't do coaching or anything. It's just I kind of run what feels good. But yeah, I ran bluegrass 50K, and then I did Big Turtle 50 miler. Then I did Yamacraw 50K, and by that point, I was really kind of champing at the bit for a 100 miler. And I knew maybe it was a little much for where I was currently at, but I actually kind of got talked into it. So I was originally signed up for the 50 mile at Warhammer, and then I was already in my head was like, I mean, I could just change this up to the 100. And then I had a couple buddies who were like, oh, we're doing the 100. Why don't you just do the 100? And that sold me. So I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm signing up for the 100.
You just needed that little nudge.
I needed somebody to reaffirm, like, yeah, that's a good idea, Ryan. Too much. So yeah, I signed up for that one, and which was cool, and I'm really glad I did it now because it doesn't exist now. It's just a 50 miler, which makes me sad because it's a lesser attended race, which is probably one reason it's not 100. I think the year I ran it, there's like 30 or so of us that started, and I was like, after I finished that, I was like, I'm going to come back and win this one at some point. Like, I'm going to get better, and I'm going to aim, because that one's like, the start line for that one's like 30, 45 minutes from my house. Like, it's so close. That's like my backyard ultra. Yeah, because we started from that London kind of campsite, and I did the double out and back, went to Cumberland Falls and back, and then went the other way out to 49er and back on the Sheltowee. And I knew the Hawk Creek section of Sheltowee real well. I did not know that section from the start out to Cumberland Falls and back, and that was the roughest. I think Warhammer was definitely one of those that it looks a lot easier on paper than it was once you got on it. It's kind of deceptive. The trail's pretty gnarly. It's like a lot of that Sheltowee is rutted out like ATV track, and like that section to Cumberland Falls and back, like it's overgrown and rocky, so you're just whacking your toes every few feet. But yeah, so I think I ended up finishing second at Warhammer, and that really became like the war of attrition. I think is kind of how it's been referred to. It was just who can just hold on, because none of us were going fast. Like with the pack we had, it was like we weren't going fast. I realized at the turnaround, because I hadn't been in second. I think I was in third or fourth at the 75 mile mark where we turned around to go back home, that last 25. And I'd only seen one person come back toward me. And so I'm like, what's going on? So I got to the last aid station at the turnaround, and I'm like, hey, like, what place am I in? And they told me I was in second, and there was someone hurting in their crew van over there. And I'm like, well, I'm getting out of here then. I'm going to turn around and go, because I'm not going fast, so I need any kind of lead I can get. And so, a lot of that last 25 was a death march. But once I started really feeling it, and it really helped when the 50 miler started coming out my way, because they ran that like the next day, and that kind of rejuvenated, and I could actually run again, because I started learning there, and I think progressively learned that through races, that you always got more in the tank than you think you do. And you got that kind of mental restrictor that's actually holding you back. It's like, you can run, like, you're good. And like, so they started pumping me up, and I was moving faster again. And then I started hearing the road and knew I was getting close to where I was getting ready to cross over and come back into that camp. And I was just hauling at that point. I was so ready to be done. And I told myself for that last 25, I think it had to be like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never running a 100-mile. One's enough. Like, the next day, I got it. I'd been on the wait list, I think, at that point for No Business and Rim to River. And then Rim to River sent me an invite. It was the next day or the day after, and I was like, accept. So it didn't take long to decide that never again was not actually going to be the truth.
Well, in the year that you did Warhammers, Warhammer, was it the loop course? Like, did you run 250-mile loops, or was it the original?
It was so I'm not sure about the whole. I know. So we started at the London Sheltowee camp, and it was a double out and back, either direction on the Sheltowee. So it was like out and back, out and back. It was not like a big loop or anything.
Okay.
I know it's changed because I've heard that original course was a monster. Like there was some rough stuff and some. I think I've seen some pictures of some crazy like water crossings that were on that course.
Yeah, I have one of where they literally tied a rope across the course. Mike remembers this. Like there was the rescue squad was there. They had a rope tied to I think it was like a mule or a razor or something, and you were like climbing across, and they were standing there waiting on you because it had flooded so bad. Trees had fell on the course. We were having to go around trees.
It ran the entire 2 days.
They started to cancel the race because like there's a Pizza Hut somewhere around in there close to where the race started, and it flooded. Like the whole Pizza Hut just like flooded. No. But this is like mile 80-ish. And I walk up to that and it's like over knee deep. It's probably like what, mid?
Oh yeah, easily.
And just flowing so hard. And I just look at Mike and I get so mad. And I didn't even get the rope. I just like started throwing my trekking poles in the water, just started walking. And I was just screaming. I was running. But man, there was like, so one of the things that they did in the original course was they gave us pepper spray.
For the Sheltowee dogs?
Because every year someone got bit by a dog. And even the year they had police patrolling the roads and someone still let one of their dogs out and another runner got bit, even with pepper spray.
Yeah, I don't think the locals liked the race.
I don't think some people enjoyed that race going down by their house. I'm not sure what it was. That's kind of what they mentioned. But yeah, they would give us pepper spray at the start of the race. Like that was like essential. But it was also like 30-ish miles of road. Mm-hmm. Like just running on the road. So it was a big loop, but I think the way they changed it, everybody said the course was much better. So I don't. Yeah,
it was all trail. Yeah, like I think we hit a little bit of like gravel road, like forest road, but the rest of it, I mean, it was the Sheltowee Trace, like out back either way.
I think I was on the Daniel Boone National Byway.
Yeah. There was one section that was wild because we actually cut off trail to get to an aid station. And there was a hill. It was probably like an 80-degree grade. Like you're climbing up to get to this. It was a guy I think Mike knows that was like, I live up that way. Like you can put it like he had an aid station like in his backyard. So we just put up through the woods like, into the yard and have this aid station. And I heard the year before, like in 21, I think it was, that it was a monsoon year and nobody could get up that hill. Like they were just like falling, like trying to get up that. So I got lucky on the weather. Because I could see where that would have been terrible to try to climb up that hill and get to that aid station.
Was there ever a moment in that race where you're like, I can't do this? This is too much. Like 100 miles is too far.
I think I'm too hard-headed for that. So I never thought about quitting. I was like, I'm going to finish this one, but I'm never running another one. That's more where my mind was going, was like, okay, like I signed up, like I paid good money for this. I want that buckle, but never again. I can say I did it once.
But a buckle and a sword.
And a sword. I didn't know I was going to get the sword. I didn't know
the sword. You got the sword? Yeah. Where's it at?
Yeah. I threw the sword in.
Look at that. Second place gets a sword. That's pretty awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I got second on purpose because I thought the sword was cooler than the hammer. That's my story.
You slowed down.
Sounds good.
Yeah, slowed down to get that's my story. I'm sticking with it.
Was they placed the axe?
Yeah.
Okay.
He got a huge hammer. Huge.
The sword, and third place was like a little hatchet axe.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's cool.
I gotta give them credit. Their buckles and their awards, they did a great job. Like, that's what drew me to the race. I was like, I want to. So, obviously, you didn't stop running 100-milers after this one because you go on a tear of No Business 100-miler, Rim to Rim 100-miler, Crooked Creek Ultra 100-miler, Pistol Ultra 100-miler.
That's close to us.
Just jump on forward here. You got a couple more 50Ks, but now you got Cruel Jewel 100. Ooh. How'd you like that race?
Honestly, I had a pretty good time. because I'd listened to so many podcasts and stuff on that course of people telling me how awful it was going to be. And then I worked it up so terrible in my mind that it couldn't have possibly been that bad. So I was actually like, hey, like, I kind of, after I finished that one, was like, you know what? I'd do this again. You know, it's a hard rock qualifier, like, not too bad. I actually thought it's pretty hilarious, especially because they switched it up a little bit. And now that pointless out and back, it comes at like mile 90 now instead of like, I think before it came like mile 50 to 60 or something like that. So it's right there at the tail end. It's like you get up to the top of this hill and you have to go down to Weaver Creek Aid and back. And it's like 3 miles straight down, 3 miles back up. The race comes out to 106 miles. They have a sign right there that's like, we didn't have to add this in, but it's cool. So I think she asked at the finish, she's like, what'd you think about that? I was like, it seems appropriate. It's like, you know, I knew what I was getting into. Oh, but yeah. Cruel Jewel, I'd definitely go back to that one. I'd like to trim down time there because, like I said, I went out definitely easy, like scared that it was going to destroy me.
And what's awesome is, I mean, you did that in 29 hours. I mean, the cutoff is over 40 hours for this race.
Yeah, it's 48 hours. It's a 48-hour cutoff.
So, I mean,
It's a long time.
29 hours, that's pretty damn good. I mean, that is not stopping. Like, that's moving and hiking and you know, I mean, there's 33,000 feet of elevation.
That's what it's advertised at least, is 106 miles and 33,000 and change.
I'm sure you felt that elevation.
It was definitely a lot of climbing. Hellbender's worse. I will definitively tell you the East Coast hardest 100-miler is Hellbender.
See,
And I will tell you from what I've done Eastern States and I've done Cruel Jewel.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you, like,
Hellbender's the hardest.
what's harder? What was harder for you, Cruel Jewel or Eastern States? Because you did them back to back. Like, you did Cruel Jewel, and then your next 100 was Eastern States.
So
which one did you think was harder for you?
Eastern States, but I don't think that was because the race was necessarily harder. I had a bad day at Eastern States, and it thunderstormed on us. But I think what got me in Eastern States, so maybe I would say it's harder because the trail is you got more technical sections. And that's what my Achilles they got torn up. They swelled like triple the size by the time when I took my shoes off. My Achilles were like just red and swollen because you're constantly having those little adjustments like on those rocks and everything.
I was going to say, it's a ton of rocks, correct? Like, I mean, tons of rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the race. I've never ran it, but I've heard people say, like, it is extremely technical and a lot of people twisting their ankle.
That's another one I'll go back at some point because some of these races are like, I'm going to come back. I can do this quicker. I'm going to come back for some redemption. And so, Cruel Jewel's one I definitely want to revisit and get a trim down time. And like Eastern States, I want to trim down time. Hellbender, definitely. That's probably my number one on I want some redemption because I was tanked. I knew I was in trouble out there. That was rough.
And then you went to a little bit fast. You switched to a faster race, so you do two really hard 100s with elevation and being technical to jumping into Run Rabbit Run. How was that transition? Because those trails are much more runnable than what you've just done. Could you tell us?
Well, so over half that race is above 10,000 feet. So I was going to Run Rabbit Run to see can I survive like a race at elevation? Because obviously, like most other ultra runners, like Hard Rock's on my wish list at some point if I can get in to run. The Uray buckle, that's a nice buckle. Like I want that buckle. It's got more climbing than Hard Rock, and you're up high too. You're up higher than that, up higher than Run Rabbit Run. So I was like, Run Rabbit Run. It's a more runnable course, but it's at elevation. Like I can see if I'll at least survive it. So it wasn't too bad. I think that one's got 21,000 feet of climbing on it. It was nice right at the start. You get that, you go up two double like black diamond slopes, right out the gate. So which was wild. It's like they send you up. I think after 2 miles, you've already got 4,000 feet of gain on that course. Yeah. You see the ski slopes when you're going through the arches after the start and you're going up them. It's like, oh, okay, man. But I thought it was so awesome because the pre-race check-in and stuff, like just the crowds of people. I saw people like Arlen Glick. He'd been on my radar. Like I'd heard about him. He was there. Like there are big runners there. Like big runners and like a big audience of like people who just like the sport. Like it's a whole different ball game. I feel like mostly out this way in the country, it's like people are like, you did what? You do what? That exists? And out that way, it's a bigger culture. Like more people know about it. Yeah. And so it was cool running a race that was just that big. Cause like at the start, there were a bunch of people cheering, and then people were taking the gondola up the slopes. So then there was another big crowd you're running through up on top, like 2 or 3 miles in. Yeah. So that race was awesome. Elevation, it wasn't too bad. You know, I could tell it on the climbing. Man, it's like I was like, I feel like I'm working at 50% power, like because usually people don't pass me on climbs. Like I'm a climber. I usually get passed. I usually pass people on the climbs and then get passed on the downhill because I'm more picking foot on the downhill, not just opening up and flying like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I worry about my poor quads, blowing those suckers out. I've done it and I don't like it. But yeah, there I was like, because I signed up because you can sign up as a rabbit or tourist, and the tourists get, what do they get, 32, 33 hours, I think, kind of typical race. But if you're a hare or a rabbit, if you sign up for the faster, like you get a later start, but you have to come in under 30. And I was like, I'm going to be up high, and I don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm going to take a safe spot. But I did. I came in under 30. I only got sick once on that one, but I don't even know if it was elevation or just poor nutrition, because I'm pretty good at that. But yeah, it was pretty good. And that course like is pretty runnable. I don't know how I could possibly train for elevation. I ended up, and I should have gone a couple days earlier, but I ended up taking a red eye the morning before. I think I drove to Cincinnati for like a 5 or 6 a.m. flight, flew into Denver, like picked up my rental car, drove like 2.5 hours or so to Steamboat Springs, just hung around because my friend that lives out there, I was going to stay with him. He lives kind of on the outskirts, about 45 minutes outside of Steamboat, but I had to go to the pre-race check-in. So I just hung around town all day. I'd not slept that night before. I'm hanging around, like increasingly exhausted, go to the briefing and everything that night. And I'm like, no, I probably should have given myself a couple of days, but I've always heard, or what I've heard since like researching is like, you either go out like a couple weeks before or you hijack it. You go in the last second. So I chose the very last second that I could fly in and run that race, but I survived. It all worked out.
And I've heard it's super runnable. Like there is elevation, but the course is just, people just say it's very runnable, very smooth, which is awesome. That's something you don't think of on the east side, is to have a runnable trail that has elevation.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't exist around here. Like you can run it, but it's not the same as running,
Yeah. And I think like from my experience, it has a lot to do. Like, 2 courses can have the same amount of climbing, and one can feel like quadruple as hard. And it's how that climbing's like, how it hits you in there.
Yeah.
Like how that climbing's divided up matters a whole lot. And Run Rabbit Run, it's like, it's pretty gentle on you. Yeah. Like it's got 21,000, but it's fairly easy on you.
Well, and I'm sure the nice Kentucky humidity probably helped you some with the elevation, because
That's true. Oh man. I got to tell you, the thing I was most terrified was not elevation when we got up there. I knew being up that high, it was going to get frigid overnight. And I was so terrified of just being cold all night, like just hammering. And man, it did not disappoint. It was freezing. It like I was in like a running tank for the day. It turned off night. I'm got like a puffer jacket on. I'm still cold. Like, yeah.
What did you do? You just freeze, or you end up finding more clothes?
I kept moving. It was a very good encouragement to see
Hanging around here.
I probably owe 30 minutes or an hour at least to like just it got cold at night.
Well, there you go, guys. If you ever need motivation, just don't take enough clothes.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I got burned the same way because at Crooked Creek, when I ran it, I did not bring enough like dry stuff, so it got cold at night. And that was, again, encouragement to keep moving because I think everything was wet from sweat. Because you get moving good enough, you start sweating, it gets wet. You stop for just a couple minutes and you start hammering. And I ran out of dry stuff, so I'm just like, this is life now. So I'm just going to keep going.
I think everybody makes that mistake at some point. Yep. And I made it, and I'm pretty sure these guys probably did too, but I know I for sure did at Ball State.
Oof.
I took a couple of changes of like socks and clothes and stuff, and I thought, I'll hang them on my bag and they're going to dry. They never dry.
They don't dry.
I ended up going to Dollar General and buying socks and underwear because I was like, we got to fix something here. Like the chafe monster's coming,
Yeah, they definitely. No matter if you hung them on your pack or not, because what I did, I was change socks and then I would hang them on my pack. They would never dry.
I know. I got so upset. I threw so much money in a trash can one day. I got tired of carrying it, and I was like,
just because you didn't want the weight.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. You could look at a pencil and be like, "Well, that weighs too much. I'm not carrying."
That's too much.
You're like, I'm shedding everything that is not viable to me breathing or drinking at that point.
This chapstick, it weighs too much.
This is
Small state, you're carrying all your gear and you're kind of scavenging along the way, right? Yeah.
It's easier to scavenge. If you ever do it, just go from store to store. Don't take stuff. You don't need it.
Yeah, you would probably love Ball State.
Yeah.
Like, that's something.
Well, I've worked at some point. I'll do Ball State. Yeah, it looks like just a cool experience.
It's one of those life-changing journeys.
Yeah,
definitely. And I've not done a 200-miler yet. I want to do that like on a trail, but we did Ball State, which is 300, but I still think that it's completely different.
I do too.
Trail. Yeah. I want to do what you've done, like Southern States or something, because I think that's an even different type of experience. But the thing with Ball State is you're by yourself. Like you can run with other people, but even when you're running with other people, they're not going to give you their food. Like you've got to figure this out. Like you've got to survive and get water and try to figure out where you're going to sleep at. I mean, it's crazy. We slept on the front porch of the health department one day. It's just whatever the day brought you, you kind of went with it.
You make fun of Dollar Generals now, but when you see a Dollar General out there, you're like, here we go. We got everything in here.
I would never say anything bad about a Dollar General.
They're everywhere, baby.
The fact that Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are teaming up on Dollar General now.
They are.
Saved my life like 10 times.
We did not pass a Dollar General without going inside and getting what do you call it? They were like a red
Popsicle.
This popsicle that we found, and we would go inside, and that was the only thing we needed, just this popsicle, this certain kind that we fell in love with. Every single DG we went into.
I got Lunchables. It brought me back to my
those
little kid Lunchables. I'm like, I just need something that's easy. I got Lunchables.
No, I would probably make most people sick, but I got a chocolate milk and a popsicle. No. That was it for me. People still are like, chocolate milk. I'm like, yes.
Shoot, well, I love those those Equate nutrition shakes, like
yes, yeah, like Ensure Equates. Yep.
Yeah, Ensure, yeah. Shoot, those they're such good calories, and they go down for me so easy. Like they don't upset my stomach. Like people are like, isn't that kind of dairy based? Doesn't that make you want to like throw up? I'm like, I've never had an issue drinking those. It's like, yeah. And I get those they're Equate Nutrition Plus. They're like 350 calories, like 55 grams of carbs, like. Yeah, I could toss one of those down in a couple seconds.
Oh yeah, I would walk out with one of those big chocolate milks, and they're like, 60 grams of sugar, and I'm like, we got rocket fuel, boys. Give me that popsicle. But sorry, let's get back to your So run, rabbit, run. Then you do no business. I mean, dude, So I want to just read your day.
Yeah, they're just.
So let's just do this so everybody can understand. Like, Quill Jill was in May. Eastern States is in August. Run Rabbits in September. No business in October. Barn Creek Backyard, where you got 100 miles. I can vouch for you there. It was in November 4th. Then November 11th, you go do Tunnel Hill 100. So, like, you just went on this tear of 100 milers, and, we ran no business together this past year. I didn't really get to spend any time with you because I didn't finish the race, but I saw a picture of you today I had never saw. So I'm like scrolling through mixed stuff. And I see a picture that he's taken of you in your chair, and you were just like dead, like you're just sleeping. And I'm like, Ron gave his all out there. And
Oh
I mean,
man,
and that's
I
what's
wanted
kind
that
of
one bad.
is that your times were, even though you ran that many 100s, you were still consistent. If you think about it in the terms of elevation stuff, like you even ran no business in 23 hours, 57 minutes. So you got the sub 24-hour
Oh, I
buckle.
wanted it bad. That last push, I gave it everything, man. I thought I didn't have it.
2 minutes and 20 seconds to
I
spare.
In the last aid station, I cannot tell you the range of emotions I went through thinking I was just gonna miss out on it, man. Like there was a lady. I left that last aid station to go up through that last bit of trail before you hit the road to come in. And there was a lady up there who had just like wished off her brother. He had just ran out of there, and I think he was going for sub 24 too. And she was like, "Go on, keep going, catch my brother. He's just up ahead. You guys run it in, get it. Like go sub 24." And I was like, "I'm trying." Like I got so emotional right there. I was like, because I knew it was going to be close. I knew it was going to be close.
You're like,
So
on at me, I'm trying.
I hauled that last section to try to get it, and I thought I'd missed out. And then that Hoka banner came into view, and I was like, "It's there! Like I'm going. I think I got it." Yeah, that Hoka banner flew, and that was the greatest sight I'd ever seen. And I knew I was close.
Well, that's a big deal.
So yeah,
I mean,
I shaved it in with what, 2 minutes, 2 minutes 20 seconds or something like that.
going sub 24 on that course, it's something that's pretty hard to do. So congratulations. That's great, man. Especially after the amount of stress you put on your body the previous months. Like, it's not like you were training for this for 6 months. You literally went from 100 to 100 to 100, which meant your training was you just kind of like holding on between each race, like trying to stay healthy. So by the end of this, you do Barn Creek and Tunnel Hill at the end of the year. In Barn Creek, you were fourth place. I remember seeing you that morning. Me and Matt were, me, Matt, Neeson, and Julia, we were all there watching, and you could have went further. You just quit.
I wanted the buckle. Yeah.
You actually sat there and waited, I think, to see if anybody was going to drop, if I remember right. And then when nobody did, you're like, I'm good.
I wanted the buckle for sure. I said, I'm going out there. I'm getting 100 miles, but I didn't know how much I'd go after that. You tried to encourage me. He's like, just run one more and go the furthest. And I was like, I'd have to run 2 because I did Cruel Jewel, and that's 106.
Yeah, you had me there. I was like, damn it. But, you do that, and then you turn around a week later, and you run 17 hours at Tunnel Hill. Was there, like, at some point in this race you're like, no, like everything's hurting? Or did you just have a great day? But I can't imagine that was the case.
It was, I wouldn't say, so there was not like an oh no moment, like what have I done? Because that course is such it's such a runnable course. It was more like I was aiming for 16. That was kind of my goal I put for myself, was 16 hours. And I held on to that pace. I think I got 65 miles in, and then I started losing it. That's when it started. I was like, no, like I'm fading. Like I'm starting to fade off of it. So I was eating into my gap that I had gained on it, and ended up, finishing over 17. But I got to tell you, I wasn't a huge fan of Tunnel Hill's course because, my Lord, just straight and nothing else. Like, it's flat and straight, and you can see aid stations from 3 miles away. And it was like, I got into this for like the views and trails, and that ain't it. So PR, yes, you can PR Tunnel Hill. Don't go out there for the scenery because there is nothing.
Could you tell, like, running that flat of a course, was there like a huge part on your quads or hamstrings where you're like, man, I just want to walk for a minute, or I need a heel or something? Because I've noticed, like, in those flat courses like that, after about 60 or 70 miles, it's like, okay, I've used the same muscle now for 70 miles straight. Like, I need a change.
It's usually, for me, is like, if I can convince myself to get going again and loosen stuff up, like, I'm good. It's just, I got to convince myself to do that. Like, if I stop to fill up at an aid station, it doesn't take long once you're that far in or whatever. Like, stuff just seizes up. and you have to convince yourself that you can, like, I'm not going to walk this off. I got to run again for that stuff to loosen up. So it's kind of getting in your head and convincing yourself, like, we'll just trot for a little bit and let this loosen back out. It'll be fine. I promise. But I'm mostly, like, with doing races really close together, I've mostly felt like the tanking I've done to my system, if I've done it too close, I feel it on the climbs. That's what gets me. I can convince myself to run the flat and the down. It's like I'm not hitting those climbs nearly as hard as I usually do. And that's how I can tell. And that's how I knew that recently at Hellbender, when I hit it, I was like, I didn't give myself enough time before I came into this. Like, yeah.
Well, I was about to get confused here for a second, but I think this is just like either a mess up on UltraSignup or they uploaded.
Oh, is it Solly?
But you got 2 solid finishes. I'm like, did he run 2 different races? But I see it's the same race. Yeah. Somehow you have a minute different finish time between the 2.
Ooh, okay.
Which one's faster?
You got 5.1, so you need to tell them to keep the faster one.
Yeah, keep that one. You got the other.
Yeah,
so
I hopped into Solly. Solly was my let's get back in the swing, because after I ran those, because I think it was No Business, Barn Creek, Tunnel Hill. That was all in 4 weeks. And after that, so my appetite for buckles is pretty high. And but after that, that was like the first time since I'd started ultra running that I felt like satiated. I was like, I need some time. Like, I need to cool off for a bit. So I through Christmas and all that and New Year's, like, I was running, but not a lot. Yeah, I was looking for a race. I had a buddy going out there too, and Brian and Gordon, and they put on a great race anyways. That's all the convincing I needed. It was like, I need something to just kick off and get my race juices flowing again. So I went out of there probably not in the greatest of shape, because I felt some on that, because I'd not been very good with the training over winter after the hundreds. Because last year I did 7. So my first year I did 4, and then I did 7 last year. It's like I don't know how many I'll end up doing this year. I don't think it's going to be 7.
Yeah, your body probably needs a little time, but you did do a 200-miler, so that
counts
as 2 there.
Counts as 2.
But you did Solly, then you turn around and do pistol, and you did pistol in under 4 hours, which is pretty awesome for the 50K. You finished second place male.
Did you on the pistol? Did you come pay somebody that night as well? That's what I thought.
Yeah, I did the 50K, and then I did 40 miles with a friend, pacing on 100.
Thought so. I remember you coming in there late at night. Ryan, there he goes.
I really like pistol. See, between pistol and Tunnel Hill, I choose pistol because you got Pistol Creek and stuff, and I just feel like you're seeing people more, and it's that race environment. Like, I think it's good out there. Like, I like pistol.
Yeah. It's a little bit more deceiving than people realize. Like, it has a little bit more elevation than you think. But it's fun.
Although they didn't put up the Heartbreak Hill sign this year on that little up and down. The year I ran the 100. They had that. It said Heartbreak Hill there. They had the little sign because there's that little climb.
Well, then you turn around and do Caney Fork, which is not an easy 50K. That's a pretty hard race in itself. And that was in March. So you did Pistol Ultra and Caney Fork in March. And then in April, you do the Southern States 200. So you obviously just jumped right into, back into racing again between March and April. Tell us, we've looked at Southern States.
Yep.
The race director, David Tosh, he's a good dude. He's the one that puts on the Blood Rock race.
He's awesome. I'm
so glad that we finally have like a legit point-to-point 200-miler around here. That's something that's needed. A lot of people have the 200-mile loops and stuff, but, you need to have, like someone needs to have it, and it's a lot of work. So I'm glad that he was able to team up and do it. But tell us, you got 3rd overall. You ran it in 63 hours, and it's no easy course because it's on the Pinhoti. So tell us about this journey and what you learned about yourself in this.
Well, so I knew I wanted to run a 200 pretty early on. At some point, when I started doing hundreds, like a few in, I knew ultimately I wanted to do a 200. And I've been kind of watching Cocodona, and I'd almost like talked myself into doing Cocodona like this year. And then I decided, I was like, is like, that's super expensive. And I have to get out there and get back. And I don't know, because I'm not running 200, how that's going to go. So I started looking for races that were like closer to home. And I originally, because Southern States hadn't announced yet, a race up in Pennsylvania called Dark Sky 220 had been announced. And so I'd kind of been looking at that one. And then Southern States posted, and they were just awesome on their Facebook page. Like, they were doing like course flyover and giving all the details and like showing you where aid stations were going to be. And then I think the RD David, he was on a podcast that I listened to, and I was like, he seems legit. Like, that's the RD I trust for an inaugural like 200-mile race. Yeah, I'm going to go out to this one. So I signed up for Southern States and headed out there. And yeah, it was a good event, I gotta say. I will say about the Pinhoti, good Lord, when you cross into Alabama, it's a whole different ballgame out there. I feel like the people who cut the trail in Alabama were just like, you know what? Let's take them through this scree field so they can snap an ankle, and like let's shave the trail into like this 80-degree slope. So there's like a cliff on one side and a huge slope on the other. Like, you're walking on 8 or 10 inches of trail for some of it.
Well,
and then
we have learned that's for proper drainage.
Yes. The slope, the proper slope for drainage. I've learned this.
But shoot. But yeah, the race was awesome. But yeah, Alabama, I got to say, I prefer the Georgia side of the Pinhoti. We also ran through, we got to Alabama, we were greeted with, so I think the mountains we were running through, part of it are privately owned, and it's like an off-road park. So we got out there, and all those side-by-side, like those razors, like the little the dune buggy kind of stuff, like everywhere. Because we're crossing out, we're on single track, and we'll come out on these like dirt roads, and there'll just be packs of like 15 or 20 of them, like people just out there having a good time, like drinking beer and climbing hills on their razors. Yeah, I got some Run Forest Run and that kind of stuff at me. But yeah, it was wild. Because we knew we were coming close. We started hearing it revving up, and yeah, it was wild.
Where did you start at? Do you remember?
Dalton, Georgia.
Dalton.
Okay. And then where does it finish?
It finishes at Chehaw State Park in Alabama.
Was the start? Was it at a church?
It wasn't a church.
Because I was looking at the map trying to figure out where it started, and it looked like it was close to a church.
So there was a restaurant next door, and there was some seating and like a stage, but it wasn't a church. It was, I don't know exactly what they use it for, but yeah, that's where they kind of brought us in to like do our pre-race talk before they sent us out. And it was a noon start, which I kind of liked because Cruel Jewel had that, but I didn't get to take advantage of that because I had to be on the shuttle to the start at 6 a.m. because I was solo. So, yeah.
A lot of butterflies going into this versus the other hundreds that you'd done just because of the distance, or did you go into it like, no, I mean...
I was curious. I think I was more curious than anything. And I was really curious of like, what is my brain going to do when I hit 100 this time? And this time it's only halfway. And I was really curious about what that experience was going to be like. And it kind of came and went really fast. Like, I came into, something Creek aid station, right there around 100. I had some trench foot that thankfully the medic, it's betadine or something and that stuff awesome for trench foot if you ever got it, because my foot was hurting. So yeah, I was there for a bit. Like, he patched me up, sent me off. Like, I'm heading out of that aid station, and I just got like emotional for like a couple minutes. I was just like, man, like I still got so far to go, and then it's just gone. I was like, and I was good. But yeah. So it wasn't too bad. His aid stations out there, I think they're closer than most 200 milers are. He was good with aid stations. What we had, 15, 16. I think there was a water stop. One was like a water stop. I think there were 15 or 16 aid stations. So I think we're like a half marathon in between.
So they're probably like 10 to 15 miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad for a 200 miler. A lot of 200 miles, 20 to 30 miles.
Yeah. That's like, you hear about aid stations at 200 milers, being up there like above 20. So yeah, I mean, it's great too for aid. Like, just getting ate. And then he allows drop bags at a lot of them, which is good for me to have my own stuff, have my Ensure shakes. I tell you, it hits.
So did they have like sleep stations, like
They
designated
did.
sleep stations for you?
Yeah, they had put up like canopies and then like tarped off around them, and inside they had like sleeping pads and sleeping bags, so you could use those. And I tried a couple times to lay down, and I laid down at one, and my brain is so wired during races, like it was like I couldn't fall asleep, so I laid there for a while, and yeah, I couldn't sleep. I decided to just get up and keep moving. Tried it again later, didn't work again. Like I'm just laying there wide awake. And what I ended up starting to do after that, I tried 2 times at a sleep station, is I'd lay down for 10 or 15 minutes, like taking trail naps.
Yeah.
It was easier for me to turn the brain off, to just lay down in the trail in the dark, like, because it's so quiet out there. Like you got people bustling around in an aid station.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'd be like, that spot looks good. Like just curl up on the ground for a minute. Or if you get a nice bridge, because when you're stiff and stuff, like that wood, like straighten you out. Oh man, nothing like it. Yeah.
Was there any moments like in the stretches between aid stations where you ran out of water?
Yeah. Those Katadyn filter bottles saved my life a couple times, man. Because what I didn't think about is another thing you need to go if you're going to run Southern States is a lot of that pinhoti that you're running on, they're managing that forest for like pine barren system. Like it's pretty open. You're up on top of those ridge tops and you were exposed and you're getting cooked during the day. And like both days were 80s to 90s. And yeah, it was getting hot up there. And so, part of our mandatory kit though was like some kind of filter bottle. And so I bought one of those Katadyns and I used it a ton.
Yep.
Yeah, I loved having it. And it was so good because you could drink out of it or you could filter it out into your other soft flasks and then fill it up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would highly recommend those because, that made my race go much, much better than it would have gone otherwise.
Yeah. We're requiring that in our 130K.
Yeah, because what you had said about like weight, at one point, because I was running out of water, I had him fill up my bladder with water. Man, I was already well over 100 in there. I picked that sucker up, said, this ain't going to work. Like, set it back down and dumped the water. I was like, I'm not carrying that. I'll keep pulling water out of the creeks. Like, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was my worst mistake ever in my first 100-miler. I had no idea. I had
a full bladder?
Oh, dude. I was so like, okay, 100 miles in the woods. I don't know how long it's going to take. I got to make sure I run out of water. I fill up both bottles. And then I fill the hydration bladder completely up. And I get about 5 miles into this race, and I'm like, oh, hell no. This is not. I just unzipped it, opened the pouch, and just poured every bit of that water out. I was like, this is not happening. I was like, I'm carrying a third person on my back right now.
Yep.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Definitely agree. Yeah, as soon as I picked that sucker up, I was like, I'm not carrying that. Like, it's not happening.
So were the aid stations have, were they like cooking good food for you to?
I think I had like 9 cheeseburgers. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's what would go down.
That's great food.
Yeah. That's what would go down. So that's what I was eating. But yeah, they had hamburgers, cheeseburgers, quesadillas, like veggie burgers, and then like your regular like staple stuff. Then like they had pancakes and stuff, like breakfast food too that you could get, like pancakes and eggs and bacon, depending on what time you were getting wherever.
So a cheeseburger washed down with Fireball and water sounds pretty good.
And Ensure.
And Ensure. You could take in a lot of calories fast. I mean,
yeah. So you definitely enjoyed the race. Like I was curious how they would do on the first one. I was hoping it would go really good.
Yeah. The part, and see the ATV park, like it's all Pinhoti, I believe. The part I didn't like the road section, and that there's like a 16-mile stretch of road you're on.
Oh, wow.
And there's not shoulder. So, and like what there is of the grass on the side is like this. So like if you're not one to get taken out by a car, like you're kind of like running like this, getting off the road when stuff's coming. And when I hit that section, it was like kind of prime time day, like traffic. I think because I was kind of going slower. I wanted to do that. I wasn't trying to go hard on that first 100. I think I did that first 100 in like 27 hours. I think I would actually, if I ran it again, I would actually go harder on the first 100 to hit that road section at a better, like earlier in the morning. It would be cooler because it was really hot and less likely to get taken out by a car, and you could actually run on the road.
So you need to run Ball State.
Oh, yeah.
Before you go back and do Southern States, because you won't even blink an eye with that road section.
Got cars looking by.
Because the first day, I think everybody this way in Ball State, like there's a car coming by and you're like,
Are they getting
I
over?
got to move. By day 2, I was just running and I was like, hit me. Just take me out. Like they were just honking on. I'm like, yeah, I'm in worse shape than you right now. You get over it.
You're looking at them in the eye as you're running by. I'm like, I'm not moving.
Like, this is all I got. If I move, I'll die.
I'm not. I mean, hit me or not, I'm not. And then when a truck's coming flying down through there at 90 miles an hour, you're like, do not get over. Come as close as you can because that wind is like just light me.
Feels great.
Yeah, and it's like day 3 or day 4, you're sitting down in front of a Hardee's or a Dollar General with your shoes off. People are looking at you like you're homeless, and you're just like, this race changes you.
Hey, we're sitting at a Pizza Hut next to a Food City, and these 2 actual homeless people came up to us. It's me, Kaz, and Logan. And they go, hey, where's the phone charger? We're going to put my phone charger up. We don't know. And the guy, you don't know? I don't know where you can plug your phone at. The guy looked at us in disgust. You guys are the homeless people here. Don't even know where you plug your phone at. Yes. It was
accepted.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 16 miles of road in a 200-mile race, that's actually...
Oh, yeah. No, it's... That's point to point. It's mostly trail,
That is awesome. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear. I was curious to see what your thoughts were on it. I mean, congratulations too. First 200-miler, you podiumed it. That's pretty awesome.
Was a surprise. At that race, it very much became like reaping with wreckage because there were some guys I was like, I'm not good. There's no way I'm hanging with these people. So I was talking to people early on, like talking to people who'd run Tour de France, and I'm like, yeah, I'm running too fast up here with you, buddy. So I ran probably the first 8 or so miles with like the front pack. And then I was like, I've talked to them and stuff. Like, I'm going to ease back and try not to die out here. But yeah, it was like, I just kept doing kind of my own thing and people came back to me. So that's kind of how it worked out.
Well, tell us about this belt buckle. What does it look like?
The belt buckle? It is pretty nice.
Yeah. Hold this thing up. Let's see this. Yeah, that's
really cool.
Yeah. This is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I like it. First 200. Yeah, I don't know. Cocodona might be the next one. One Cocodona.
So has Andrew run a 200 yet?
No. See, so I agree.
Have you buckle up to him and be like,
Andrew and I, we had an agreement as ultra running friends. We both signed up for Southern States 200. We were going to run it, not run it together, but both be out there. Like inaugural year 200.
Yeah.
I didn't know until one day I was just chilling on ultra signups. Like, I wonder if anybody else has signed up for Southern States. And I go to the entrance list and I'm like scrolling through and it's like, wait, I don't see Andrew's name. So I reach out to Andrew. I'm like, hey, why aren't you on the entrance list? Didn't you already sign up? He's like, yeah, I deferred to next year. I was like, you betrayed me.
I think he told us on the podcast that he was doing it because you and him were talking about it.
Yeah. Andrew betrays me a lot. He does that.
I told you to. That's even better.
Yeah. Let's do this thing. Hey, I'm not doing it anymore. Good luck.
He was just thinking like, I'm going to let Ron have this one.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Hey, I am currently the only Kentuckian to have finished it. So there were 2 Kentuckians signed up. I was the only one that finished. The other guy didn't make it.
Andrew, step it up.
I know. If Andrew does do it next year and beats my time and everything, then my thing is going to be he's not technically a Kentuckian. He's from up north. He's from Wisconsin. He doesn't count.
He may be the first Kentuckian to finish the Cherokee.
That's true.
Hey, maybe.
See, Cherokee's going to have a 100+ mile next year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should have. It's going to be probably right around 130 miles.
I was actually working on the course, like readjusting all of it right before we came on here. Like literally sitting at the table in here and just going through all of it.
It was just a lot already trying to get these two races
Oh yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Because we weren't for sure on how long it would take to get the permit. And you can plan, 50, 100K roughly a whole lot easier than you can plan 100 miles.
Oh yeah.
Because the 50, 100K roughly, it's 70K, 130K now, but like just to that point, we end up having to do reroutes. We had to change course.
Yep.
And if we'd have been trying to do 3 races the inaugural year, it would not have went smoothly. So, this will give us good rapport with, putting the race on with the parks rangers and everybody and make sure everything goes smoothly. And then next year we can do all 3.
we know.
Next year you'll have the 70K, 130K, and then whatever we end up with on that 130 miler, it may be 135, maybe 125, but it's going to be somewhere around that range.
Yeah. So now we got the base route for it. It's just this addition that we have that it's got a huge climb in it, beautiful views, just fixing that mileage to see what it comes to.
Let's talk about talking about the Cherokee and how that race. Let's actually talk about your last 100 miler, which is a hard one. Hellbender 100.
Yeah. Mistakes were made.
He just says.
So before you jump into that, do you think that is your hardest race, or do you think Southern States was harder than that?
I'd give it to Hellbender, honestly. And maybe some of that's like the condition I went into it in. But shoot, like I didn't feel as bad at any point in Southern States. I feel like that I felt at Hellbender, and it's half the distance. I mean, I think Hellbender, I think it is like a perfect storm of how much climbing it has and how it hits. And to do damage. Like it's out there to wreck you. And it does a good job, I thought.
How much elevation does that one have?
25-ish, 25 and change or something like that.
And it's extremely technical, right?
Yeah, I think it's more technical than Eastern States, honestly. Like they say Roxylvania and stuff.
Yeah.
When I got through with that, I was like, this is more technical than Eastern States is. Like,
yeah, I've heard Hellbender and Grindstone are both like just brutal races to try to do.
So that one's in North Carolina?
Yep.
But I will say, do you think that maybe, just maybe, running a 200 miler and then in less than a month running a 100 miler might be the reason that it was so damn hard?
No.
Yes. That was part of it. And I realized my mistake when I was on top of Mount Mitchell and I was at that aid station at the highest point in North Carolina. I was like, I probably should have given myself a little bit more time to recover. Because, I think the first major climb is called Heartbreak Ridge or something like that. So there's like, they map it out. So there's climbing in between, but there's like 5 major climbs. And Mount Mitchell comes so Mount Mitchell's mile 38 and that's the 3rd major climb. So like a lot of that's hard hidden climbs they pack early on too. So it's easy. It'd be easy for you to like blow up early and then have a miserable back half when it's actually, it gets a little bit easier. But I felt it even on that first, like coming up Heartbreaker, I was like, oh man, like my legs, like I just don't, like I can feel like it's that overall, like my legs don't feel like they should. And like just your system, like, I mean, you run races, like your system, like getting back fully, like I feel not great, like I don't feel fresh. Yeah, and I realized that early on.
Yeah, I didn't make as big a mistake as like doing a 100 miler by no means, but I did Vol State last year, and then a month later, I did our race, and I just did 6 hours at the fort. And by 6 hours, I knew that I had screwed up. Like within 3 hours of this race, I'm like, it's not there. Like I can't run any faster. I want to, but I can't. And I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And finally, like me and Mary were talking one day, and she's like, it's because you ran 300 miles. She's like, that doesn't go away in a couple of weeks. And I would say that's probably what you were feeling. Because, I mean, Hellbender's hard, but at the same time, you've done hard races. And, but that's a different feeling when you're like, I want to run. I really don't feel that bad. It's just not there. Like,
that's the perfect way to. That is the perfect way to describe it.
I kept saying that.
Like I want to, but it's not there.
I'm like, I don't really hurt, but I just don't have anything. Like, there's nothing in the tank.
That is the perfect way to describe it. That was my Hellbender experience, and it was a rough day. And we got the hailstorm and the thunderstorm on top of Mount Mitchell. Like, I left that aid station like quarter mile out. It starts, just opens up, and it's just downpouring on us. And then the hail starts, and I'm like, oh man! It's like I'm already having an awful day. Like, what next?
Well, I would say Southern States was the gift that kept on giving during that race. Then
it did, and it was probably
You did it. I mean, you did it in 30 hours, and that's not. It's not a time just to sneeze at. I mean, that's pretty. It's pretty hard.
No,
race.
It's a testament to how it was. Like, I somehow was still in the top third of the. Like, I think I finished like 26th, 27th.
Yeah.
It's somehow feeling freaking off. That's a testament to how hard that race is. That people were still back behind me because it's rough.
So looks like you've taken some time off. Did you burn yourself out again, or are you just trying to heal?
I've learned. So I say that, but I've really been considering running Mohican on the first week of June. But I have not signed up yet because
wouldn't that be a good story to do the Mohican and then the Cherokee?
That's true.
That would be pretty cool.
What day is the Cherokee on?
July 20th.
July 20th, the next month.
Andrew's already signed up.
Yeah, Andrew's here.
I know. He's doing the 50K, isn't he? Or the 55K, whatever it ends up being.
70K.
70K.
It would be 43 miles.
Yeah.
But,
I don't have anything planned out for July, though, so.
Well, there you go. Inaugural year. You could
I do like inaugural year stuff.
Or you could just say you're going to sign up and do the same thing to Andrew that he done to you.
Oh, yeah. Southern States, though, that's a big burn to do somebody. He did me dirty.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was already mad at him because when he was on this podcast, he betrayed me and started talking about how he tried to steal my crown on the bridge, Tipple Bridge, before they shut it down, that he regrets not trying to steal it from me before they shut it. It's like, I was like, man, you just, to the public and everybody, you admitted how you tried to stab me in the back.
Friendship.
Brutal. And then, then he backed out on Southern States. Like,
so what he could do is he could come run the 70K and try to beat Andrew.
I don't know.
But didn't he buy you a coffee cup not too long ago?
He did. Okay.
So he made up for it.
He did. He got me the Speed Goat coffee mug. Yeah. So, he knows I like a coffee mug. I'm a sucker for a coffee mug. The only reason I carried the podium at Caney Fork, I wanted the coffee mug. The finisher, like the podium prizes for the Caney Fork were coffee mugs, and I was like, I want that coffee mug. Like, that's all the motivation I needed.
Well, now, I will say, like, there's not a race that's not on here that you actually just finished this past weekend, and you did the Yamacraw 10K and won it. So that's a whole different type of, running in itself, because like 100-miler, you're not going all out. No. You're kind of holding back because you got to endure it, But for a 10K, you're pretty much going 90%, 80 to 90% all out, and like then saving some for the end. And you did it. Like you won the race.
How fast was that run?
He averaged an 8-minute pace.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Like it was 8:08 is what I think I saw, something like that.
Oh, something around. At least it was like 80, something 100.
I was stalking.
I did not expect that at all, especially because I didn't even I got kind of offered that bib last minute. My friend Matt, his daughter couldn't make it because of basketball. He's like, "You want a bib?" I was like, "Okay," but I just run Hellbender. I was like, I don't know what I got because Hellbender freaking destroyed me. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to have come Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. It's 6 miles. So in the scheme of things, that's not long out there. So I'll go for it.
You did. I mean, you killed it too. That's actually impressive to do, right after Hellbender like that. So I
expected someone to track me down the whole time. I was fully expecting someone to track me down. Like I did, because I just went out kind of hardish and somehow was in the front. And then I was like, someone's going to catch me at some point. And I was like, if I can just get up on top of the blue heron loop, just get up on top and then hammer the down is like as much as I can. Because I was like, because I'd probably say my weakness is downhill, but it's like it's a 10K. So it's like if I blow up my quads, I'm not going another 50 miles or something. So I was like, I'm up here in first. I'm holding on to it currently. If I get to the top of this climb and I'm still in first, I'm just gonna freaking hammer it down. I'm gonna see if I can actually get it.
You did it, man. Congrats. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, when I saw you on the podium, I was like, look at that. That's freaking awesome. Right after Hellbender.
So he podiumed that, and then Andrew and Michael both podiumed the...
Yeah, Michael won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Brian was
finished
fifth. So,
I mean, it was...
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Trey, too. Trey I met at my first at Bluegrass 50K, so I've run with him. Then last year at No Business, we ran together some, but he was third place at the 40 miler, Trey Whiteside. So I was like, yeah, they went out there and they both podiumed. I was like, dang. So then I had to at least podium at the 10K to not get shown up. Like,
you won it. Forget podium, you won it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of cool to like go back and see like the races or the results and see like you getting podium, Andrew getting podium, Michael Ulick winning, Brian Vermillion, great performance on him. I mean, he was like fifth overall. And it was just cool to see like all the people that we know having a good day.
Yeah.
Everybody can have a good day, but it's rare that you see multiple people that you are friends with or know all have a good day. And I was like, this is awesome. Like that was just really cool. And I think Nick was there taking pictures, right? That was Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nick. He took some awesome pictures of you guys too. I was looking through them and I was like, this is cool. Like he's got some cool pictures out from what I've seen so far.
Yeah. Nick and Misty both are really awesome.
They are amazing.
They are awesome. And then Pete.
I don't know how they sleep at this point because they literally go to a race.
Yeah.
There is no sleep. And then Nick will have these things ready by Monday.
Yeah, and Nick and Misty both do like races back to back. And I'm just like, my goodness, like Saturday and Sunday or Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And whew.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I would ask you what's next, but you basically already told us you're doing Mohican, and there's a small chance you might do Cherokee. But you got a big race you're shooting for this year?
So I'd like to do Mohican. I have I'm not signed up already because after my fiasco at Hellbender, I was like, am I going to be okay enough? It's a much easier course than Hellbender. So I don't know.
Tell me about that one. I actually looked at it because I like the name, but what kind of course is it?
It's got like 14,000 feet of gain, and I think it's like a couple or 4 loops maybe. Is it like 2 big loops, 2 small loops? I think is how it is from like a central hub, I believe. But it's Ohio's oldest 100-miler. That's
okay.
Yeah, but I have not checked off Ohio yet because I want to collect the states, and Ohio I don't have yet, and I'd like it to be Mohican.
Mm-hmm.
But I got burned with not wanting to wait till next year for Hellbender, so I'm like, am I going to be recovered after just tanking myself again and then Hellbender to go out to Mohican?
Yeah,
because I could get it done, but I'd like to have at least a halfway decent day and not. Just it'd be a full sufferfest out there.
And that one's 100 as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's 100 because there's I think it's a new 100-mile distance. I think they've done shorter, but there is one in Ohio called East Fork 100 that they're going to do this year. I think it's in August. But yeah, so tentatively, maybe I've looked at like Indiana too. I still need Indiana. I've looked at like Burning River potentially. I'm doing No Business again just because I love No Business. I'm already signed up for it. But yeah, I don't have anything though in July.
Apparently we're going to be running an aid station at No Business. Brian, I was talking to Brian this past week and I think he needs help. So I told him I would start talking to the group and see what we could do. So instead of telling Mike and Matt any other time, I'll just tell them on the podcast right now. That way they can be shocked.
Well, that would be pretty cool because I've actually never been up that way. Yeah. So I would like to learn it because I do want to run that race. in the future.
So
No Business is still, out of all the ones I've done, No Business is still my favorite race. I don't know. There's something about it. It's a special race.
Well,
I love that race.
Ryan puts on a great race. Like it is a great race, and the course is absolutely beautiful.
It's amazing, and like all the volunteers are awesome. You get to the finish line, and everybody hangs around and parties and waits and cheers people in. Like, that's a special race.
That was the only thing I told Brian. I was like, we will volunteer. We'll run an aid station. We need to do this year, but next year, I have to get my double buckle because I fell on that bridge this past year.
Maybe next year I'll run it. I need to run it.
Yeah. See, I convinced myself. I told myself after I got my double buckle last year that I was either going to volunteer or crew and pace it. And then registration opened up and I signed up. And what I told myself was like, okay, because my first year, No Business, I had a rough day. Like I chafed all the heck and I was cowboying it in, it was rough. So I was like, I'm going to go. I need to do sub 24 both directions. So I need to sign up again this year. So that's what I'm telling myself. But then I'll tell myself after that I need the double buckle. So,
there you go.
Because then I can't just leave it on 3 times. Like I can get a second double buckle.
An even number.
Yeah.
Brian, you're going to have to change the double buckle for like repeat now. People get 2 of them. They get a different color or something.
You can trade the green and get the special ones.
It's nothing but just like a giant eagle. Ryan, while Matt pulls up some questions, and it takes him a while. He's going to play music here in a minute.
If Brian Vermillion tags us in another,
phone's going to go off, and he's going to forget what he's going to ask you, and then he'll skip questions that we'll find after the podcast. But
that's because they send them. I can't help them.
But while he's doing that, I'll go ahead and ask you the very first question we ask everybody, and that is, why do you run? What keeps you going in those dark places when everything's so hard and everything's so tough, and you're out there by yourself wondering why you're still doing this? Why do you run?
I think that goes back to, and I kind of posted about it somewhat recently, just because it's like I've met so many people like out on the trails, like just talking, like sharing some miles during 100 or whatnot, and you hear so many people like come from different backgrounds. I've like talked to plenty of like people who are like former addicts and stuff, or people like, I feel like a lot of people end up out there because they've been through something tough that changed them. And like I kind of told you at the beginning of this, like that was kind of me. Like the divorce and feeling like my life was just completely going crazy and out of my control. And I went to some real dark places, and I started running these races, and it's a hard thing. But I finished that first one, and I'm like, okay, like that's doable. And then you go up the next distance and you finish that one. You're like, okay, like you're taking these steps and you're finishing them. And to me, it almost feels like re-upping that I'm the person that can come through that hard thing. Like I beat that in my life. Like I got through that divorce. I got through thinking my life was never going to be right again, that I was never going to be happy again. Like those dark headspaces you go in when something like that happens. And I think I focused that in these races, and these races are to prove to me like it's a re-up. It's like I'm still that person. I'm the person who got through that, and I can get through this. And it gives me that, I don't know. I think each race I give, it's just like that little boost is like, it's like if I got a little bit faster, or if I had a suffer fest and I'm like, but I finished. Like it's like I can do these hard things. Like you can do these hard things. So like I want to keep proving to myself that I'm that person that can do it. And that's really what these have given me, on top of just all the awesome friends and stuff. That's been a huge bonus along the way, because like I told you, I'm pretty antisocial, and I work out in the woods, so I'm not meeting people out there. So I'm not going to hang out at bars or anything. Like, I've met so many awesome people along the way, and that's been such a bonus to like just keep interacting with like the ultra community and the trail community. And I guess that's kind of my answer for that.
Well, it's interesting to think about the trajectory of your life after things happen. And when you're in that moment, like going through that divorce and the stuff that you were seeing, you're not thinking about anything about your future. You're stuck in this moment trying to figure out like, what's happened, and you're stuck in that, like, what did I do to deserve this? What has went wrong? And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, you're in this new normal. And that's what's so interesting about all this is, like, it's just like running in life. Like, there is a new level set. There is a new normal. No matter how bad something gets, it becomes your new normal.
Mm-hmm.
You just adjust to it. And that's kind of how this running, like 100 miles, 200 miles, it's so hard when you first start. But then it becomes a new normal. And then it becomes like, oh, I can go a little further. I can do this and I can do this. And that's just how life is. Like, if you looked at yourself when you were going through all those hard times you were talking about, you would never have gotten to where you're at today.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be a runner. You wouldn't be in this community. You wouldn't be doing the amazing things you're doing. And that's just so interesting to think about how that trajectory changed your entire life.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to see how that stuff plays out. And I think it's so amazing because a lot of that gets left out and missed. And people that don't push themselves and get out of that just start to see that, they don't get to see that part of their life where they could have changed something.
Mm-hmm.
And to see where you've went, I mean, it's absolutely amazing, man. Like, it's so crazy to think about how that one little thing changed your entire life to where you're sitting right now doing all these amazing things. I mean, you just ran a 200-mile race. Did you ever think that was going to happen?
Oh man, like you're saying, in those moments, no, I saw nothing outside of the moment I was in then. And I was like, my life's over. Where do I go from here? Like, everything's falling apart. And just that's why, I think I'd encourage people, to do hard things just to prove to yourself you can. Like, I did that, even if it's once, and you just death march it the whole way. It doesn't have to be ultras. It can be whatever. But like, because it is so
same. I was going to say, that same advice that you're giving people for running is the same advice for life.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, just get through it, and you're going to be amazed at the opportunities that fall out in front of you. And look at you now. Like, I mean, that's when you're in that, like, you don't think about it. And that's kind of what I tell people is, like, you have no idea 2 years from now what your life is going to be like. It's going to be whatever you want it to be. It's going to be so much better if you just get out and start doing those things. You and I are both living proof of that, because we both did it the exact same way. And you just don't really know that until you do it. And kudos, brother. Like, you've ran with it. You've done it and literally ran with it. You've done over a dozen 100-milers, if I'm counting correctly, in 2 years. That's pretty impressive for a guy that has never ran. And then all of a sudden goes from, running just daily training runs to running 100-milers and 200-milers. So I think it's pretty amazing. I don't know if you've ever just sat back and thought about that, but like, where you've come and how you got here is all because of that moment. And you got to be somewhat, as bad as that moment may have been, you got to kind of be thankful for it too, because it sets you on a path that you probably would have never have found without it.
No, I mean, it was definitely the hardest time of my life, and it felt like it was going on forever. Just how it drug out with, like, finalizing the divorce and waiting for court dates and thinking it was never going to end, and not looking outside of that. And then, getting to the other side and finding ultras and being able to focus that energy somewhere and like I got this, I can push through, and I'm going to keep pushing through. It's been a heck of a journey, and I freaking love it. I don't. that's why I'll go out and suffer at Hellbender. Oh man, but I'm going for the 100. I want to join the club. Actually, Andrew and my buddy Trey that just did the second and third at Yamacraw 40-miler, they talked me into signing up for Bandera next year. That's 100K. And then Andrew the next day sent me a post about someone else joining the 100-milers club. And I was like, I'm falling behind and you have me signing up for 100K. Like, what the heck? That doesn't count.
I saw Walter Hanloser was he made a post today about, I think it was today about it. So he's trying to do the 100, 200, 100 milers. No, 100 milers.
Yeah, he can do that.
And he's really close because he's the guy that a few years ago set the world record. He did 50 100 milers in a year. And,
I'm crazy. I'm not that crazy.
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
he's trying to get 100 now, and it was a good story.
Are those like official races too?
Yeah,
you have to travel all over the place. Oh my.
Yeah.
$30,000.
He spent over $30,000 that year.
Oh,
there was like 3 guys doing it. It was really cool to watch. So
that's wild.
But you're well on your way to 100. If you think about the fact that you've only been running for 2 years, you've already done 12, 13. So, well, Matt, let's turn it over to you, sir.
All right, we got a few questions here.
With some questions.
We got a few questions from the listeners and then a few questions from me. So, what has been your favorite 100-mile race to this point?
No business. I think we talked about that. I love no business. Oh. I think at every race I go to, like if I'm running with runners for a little bit, like in 100 or something, we're just chatting. I'm like, "You're in no business? You heard of no business?" Like, I'm repping for Brian. I'll rep for you, Brian. I don't need anything else, no credits or anything. That's just a freaking awesome race. Yeah. So
good marketing, baby.
Yeah. No business all the way. Yep.
Well, and I mean, he's earned it. He's done a really good job with that race, and they put it on. Yep. They direct it really well. They have great help, great volunteers. Mm-hmm. You know, we are very fortunate in the community that we have around here. We have a ton of good race directors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, most of the races that you've ran around here, I know every one of the race directors, we all do, and they're just amazing people. You know, they truly are. We're blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second part of that question is, what sets it above from the others?
No business. It's just how it's put on. Yeah, it's that race atmosphere there. That course is awesome. Like just the views you get and the rock shelters and run down through. I mean, now we're crossing. I love the bridge. I'm sad that it's gone right now, but there is something to be said of having to ford Big South Fork twice. Like that's part of it now. So yeah. So a big single mile, 100-miler, like close to home. Cause I mean, you get to start it there. It's like less than an hour and a half for me. Like to get to start of that race, I can go down there and run parts of the course and do it fairly frequently. And yeah, and something I really love about that race too is how so many people hang around at the finish to cheer people on. Like it's just the atmosphere there is awesome. Like the race is so well put on, the volunteers are great, and then people want to stick there and cheer people on. Like so, everybody's hanging out. Just like you talked about that picture of me conked out in a chair, like. Yeah, that was me conked out at the finish, cheering people on when I could stay conscious.
Okay, with that being your favorite race, what is the hardest ultra that you've done?
Hellbender. Yeah, so we talked about that a little bit, and part of that is definitely.
I think we should call that Southern Hell.
It was my own little personal hell because it definitely was.
I think it's half Southern States and half Hellbender. It's Southern Hell.
Yeah. I'm going to go on the record for my vote for the hardest East Coast 100-miler is Hellbender. And I've done 2 of the others that come up in conversation in Cruel Jewel and Eastern States. And I say Hellbender takes the cake. I think it's more technical than Eastern States. I think the climbing, how it's in there, even though it's less than what Cruel Jewel advertises, I think the way it hits on the course and how it hits you, like it's worse than Cruel Jewel's climbs. And also, I want to go on record to saying I hate the stretch of horse trail on Hellbender. I love it. It's like running through a swamp. Yeah, there's lots of wet feet out there.
So you're going to have to, since you're since you love these hard mountain climbs, you're going to have to add Blood Rock 100 to your list now.
I've heard Blood Rock, and I like David, like Southern States was awesome. So I've heard Blood Rock's pretty tough.
He canceled it because they couldn't get enough runners, but now he's made a post and said he's going to open it up, and as long as they get enough runners,
they're going to do it.
They're doing the Blood Rock 50 and stuff anyways, and he's already changed the course again. So when I did it, it was 35-mile loop, something like that. But now he's changed the course; it's 2 50-mile loops. But it's you would enjoy it if you've enjoyed them other ones because it's.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what you thought about it too. But the belt buckle, is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
If you're a
sucker.
belt buckle guy, you're gonna love this belt buckle.
Sucker for. I'm not gonna lie. I look for the belt buckle too for the race. Like
It's probably the coolest belt buckle I have.
Mm-hmm. See, Hellbenders is really good. That was one thing that was like, I can't wait another year to get that buckle. Like, I got to go out there. Hellbenders is awesome. Yeah. But yeah, sucker for a belt buckle. That's why I like, definitely, because I think Ure has one of the best buckles. That would be a monster of a race, but sometime I'm planning to try my hand at it.
All right. The next one is, what is your favorite distance?
Definitely 100 plus. I've only had that 200 so far, but definitely interested in doing more. I've learned I think it takes more out of your system than 100 does and takes a little bit longer to come back based on my experiences. But yeah, definitely the 100-mile plus distance. I think there's, for some reason, I think I'm awful at pacing myself on a 50-miler. I've only done Big Turtle twice for 50 miles. And I think I just get it wrong. I think I go out too hot. I don't know, because that's that hard distance. I can do a 50K pretty well, like zone in on it, but somewhere between that 50K and the 50 mile, I think the wheels come off a little bit.
Yeah.
I've actually had someone tell me that 50-mile is their favorite distance because it breaks it up just enough to where the fast people can't really hold that really fast pace like they can in the 50K. And then the 100-mile people can't really, that are really good 100 miles, can't really find their pace. What you're saying makes sense. Yeah. That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of people say 50 miles is their favorite distance because of that.
It's not my favorite distance.
Nope. I take 100-mile any day.
The next question is, do you have a strength plan?
So I do, like, nothing super crazy. I've been bad about it here lately, and it's something I need to get back into. But yeah, I typically try to go to the gym twice a week and just do some lifting. So I'll do like leg press and bench and like kind of full body kind of workout. For Cruel Jewel, and this is something I really want to get back into because I think it helped a lot for Cruel Jewel, is I'd actually go to the gym and do that stair climber with like a 25-pound weighted vest. Yep. And I just stay on there for like 45 minutes or an hour, like just climbing. And I think that helps me a lot. And I'd like to start doing that again. But yeah, it's so easy. I think that's the runner's downfall. It's so easy to like get away from that stuff and just run. It's like, just go for a run.
Yeah.
There's something, because I guess you can just walk out the door and go for a run. You got to get yourself to the gym. It's easy to let it fall to the wayside.
Agreed.
You definitely need it in those long distances, though.
Yeah, man. Because everything breaks down. You have that muscle to back it up. Everything's easier. What is the mileage per week?
Typically for me, ramping up for like 100-miler is like 70 to 80 is typically where I'm at. In between there, if I'm not too worried or ramped up for race, I might drop down like 50 to 60. And then, I mean, sometimes I'm running stuff so close together that I do just kind of carry fitness, and I'm doing like lower mileages, like 20 miles, like 20, 30. If I know I'm going to sign up for another race soon, like just trying to recover in between and just getting enough mileage to let my legs remember that they can run. That way, because you get a little antsy when you don't run for a while.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it starts getting pent up. Yeah.
What is your favorite hydration, or what hydration do you use?
I mean, I'm a fan of Tailwind. I like Tailwind a lot, but I don't know what other stuff. I'm good with Scratch. They had Scratch at Hellbender, and it was really good. Not a fan of Gnarly.
Yeah, I haven't tried Gnarly Mud.
I haven't either.
It might have just been the flavor they had. They had it at Rim to River, and I wasn't a fan of. It might have just been that flavor, but yeah, it kind of turned me off of it a little bit.
I mean, Tailwind's got some pretty bad flavors too.
Tailwind is not.
They've got some good ones. I like a couple of theirs, but there's a couple of flavors. Tailwind, it's just like
I think I just prefer it when it's those drink mixes when they're like a lighter flavored, like they're not heavy. Because I feel like some of them, like they got too much flavoring in there, and when you get those miles in, that's not what you want. It's like something that's strong.
No.
So something that's really lightly flavored. Because I think sometimes like sword, I'm fine with sword, but I think sometimes it's a bit. Some of those flavors are too strong. Like I'm just like, I wish this was like just a little less potent.
Oh, let's see. What shoes do you wear?
Well, when I first started running ultras, I started with Speed Goat 5s, and I did Warhammer in those. Well, I think I did. Yeah, I did. I did Bluegrass 50K, Yamacraft 50K, and then I did Warhammer. Like they were fine for the 50Ks. I did Warhammer in them, and my feet were wrecked. Like just hurt. Like I had a blister or two, but that I wasn't really worried about that. My feet just like hurt, and I was like, I guess this is just part of like running 100. But then I tried Cascadias, like from Brooks, and did not have the same issue. Like my feet were fine after running in them for 100. So I've been running in those a lot. But actually, I just did everything I've run in. Yeah, I think all my races this year that were trail, I ran in Solomon Ultra Glide 2s. And I was kind of turned on to those. I've been wanting to try some Solomons, and I love that little quick lace draw thing.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to change socks or whatever during a race, like if you need to, and if you just need to change how tight your shoes locked up, like I was like, that could be awesome, and I've loved them. I did Southern States in those. I did Hellbender in those. I did Caney Fork in those. So yeah, I've loved those shoes. So that's what I'm on currently is Ultra Glides, yeah. And then for road, I use Ultra Taurins. I like the 6s more than the 7s, so I bought a 3 pair of the 6s to run in before they're all gone.
You find a pair that you really like, you stock up.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Because I got a pair of the 7s, and I was like, these don't feel the same. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
It's so irritating. You finally find a shoe you like, and then the next season they're like, new improved design. I'm like,
everything's changed.
Please no. That's like with the Speed Goats. Is like ever since I started running ultras, everybody I hear talk about the Evo Speed Goat, and they stopped making it, and it's like the most like desired trail shoe from what I've heard. And folks just like, nah, we're done. No more Evos.
My last question here is, what are your goals in running for the next few years?
100.
Yeah, so yeah, I do have the big goal. Probably going to be more in a few years to hit 100 hundreds, and I would like to. I'm also kind of I'd like to collect the 50 states. I think I like it because it gives you a reason to travel different places too. So it's like start looking for cool trails in different states and get out there. So I thought that was like a cool thing to aim for too. Other than that, I've been kind of looking. I've been kind of looking maybe at pistol next year for. I'd like to lower my PR. I'm currently like at 1727 for 100, and where Tunnel Hill, I was kind of aiming for 16, but I'd just done those 2 before, and I didn't quite have it in the tank. So I'd like to get my PR for 100 at least down to like 16 hours, and so I was kind of thinking about pistol for that possibly.
Man, if you didn't race 100-miler the month before, I bet you could probably do that.
Yeah. It was your all's fault too. Barn Creek was in there too with no business.
That's true. That's true.
You offered a buckle. You
I
knew,
mean,
you knew what you were doing.
Pull up in front of Ryan and be like,
Yeah.
this can be yours.
Hey, Ryan, there's a buckle for the 130 Cherokee.
Oh,
There is a buckle there.
You should see the buckle for the Cherokee.
There's a buckle.
do love a buckle. I'll probably be sold. Yeah.
I should have them on June 20th. I'll send you a picture.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think we ordered a 5-inch buckle. So pretty good stuff.
Oh,
I mean, if you're going to do 20,000 feet elevation gain in 80 miles, you need a buckle.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they've started doing them for 100Ks. It's like Andrew talked me into Bandera with a buckle. It's 100K, but they do have a buckle. It's like, okay. I was like, okay. I was like, it's kind of a 100-mile thing, but we'll let it slide for the 100Ks. But what did I see? Oh, I think I saw some like kind of big in the community. Was it Nick Bear or something? That they did like a a 5 or 10K trail thing or something and had a buckle finisher thing. And people were like, whoa.
Haynes did, didn't it? Cam Haynes did for his.
Yes, that was it. That was Cam Haynes.
Okay.
That's what it
Yeah,
was.
for his.
Yes. And I was like, whoa. You can't be starting to offer buckles for that distance.
Those buckles have to be hard earned.
Yeah.
On now.
Yeah, I'll accept the 100K. Like, we can't be down here. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then Austin.
Well, that's pretty impressive though, what you've done since you started running. And I mean, the fact that you've podiumed races, you've done back-to-back races and podiumed them. And the fact that you've already done a 200 miler in your second year of running is pretty impressive. I mean, overall, like you've got a awesome, race list and just a huge list of accomplishments already.
Yeah.
I mean, you already have 7 trophies on Ultra Sign Up. I mean, some people have been running for 10 years and don't have but 1 or 2s. Like, what you're doing is pretty awesome already to see where you've came from in this short amount of time. So I can't wait to see what you do in the future, man. If your goal is 100 milers, we'll help you in any way we can. So if there's anything we can ever do to help you, please let us know.
Cool.
I just want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast. Is there any questions that you have for us?
So what weekend's Cherokee? I mean,
July 20th.
July 20.
I'm telling you, I got a window there. Andrew was already talking to me about it. So
You guys come down together.
I will tell you, it is an absolutely beautiful course. It is basically all runnable.
Basically.
There is a lot of climbing. So if you're doing 130K, it's over 19,000 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, that's solid.
But it is beautiful views. I mean, you're in the national forest, and for the most part, your longest stretch is probably going to be 7 to 8 miles between 8 stations. We've got one section we're working on right now to fix. We had one section that was going to be 10 miles, but that's not, as a runner, we can't do that. So we're actually going to put something towards that and shorten that down to like a 5 to 7 mile range. And that way every section's 5 to 7 miles. Because July, let's be honest, July, it's going to be hot.
It's going to be very hot here.
In those mountains, it's going to be humid.
Yep.
But what's really cool about it, there are literally streams everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere. So as long as you bring a filter with you,
Required.
you're not going to run out of water. I mean, literally, there's streams everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful course.
Like, we fill up when we go do our training runs, we fill up with 2 flasks. And then we hit so many streams that you just fill them up as you go. So you're not worried about running out of water.
Yeah. And at the top of Wacheesy Mountain, at the top of Buckball, those views are just absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, it's a cool course. We're excited about it. I think over the next few years, it will be our biggest race. All of our races have been growing a lot over the last few years.
Oh, yeah. Gone Loco and Fort Frenzy. So,
but I still think, we all think this will be one of our biggest races just because it's different. No one's ever put on a race in this section. And it's kind of cool that we get to do this in our backyard.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, like with next year having the 100-mile plus distance, I mean, there's a draw for that. It's getting bigger. It's cool watching like the community grows.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Ryan, man, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We truly appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us. Yeah. You got a cool story, man. I loved hearing it. I know the guys did too. Yep. Y'all have any questions for Ryan?
I'll ask all mine.
All right. Well, Ryan, if you don't care, hold on for just a minute when we close the podcast. We'll talk for just a second. But, man, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you telling your story, and we can't wait to see what you do in the future.
Thanks, Ryan.